Brodes in for the midday show. Hope you guys enjoyed your holiday yesterday. It was a lovely day with the family on this side. Hope it was all fantastic out there. 215-592-9494. That's the phone number. And while, yes, there was a good basketball game from the Sixers in Boston, that's not where we start. The Philadelphia Eagles are gearing up for a game against the Dallas Cowboys. And the questionable status of Jalen Hurts is making me feel very awkward. And I think with the main goal in mind being we need that Lombardi trophy, the Eagles need to be careful with Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett can beat the Dallas Cowboys. Now, we are going to get an update, hopefully, from Nick Sirianni around 11:30, and we will carry that press conference here on 94 WIP. But I don't want to play games and mess around with where Jalen is with this concussion. If we are waiting until the very last second until he actually gets cleared, and we spend all week prepping with Pickett being the number one, getting all the reps, and trying to establish a game plan with Kenny Two Gloves as the starter, let's not play any games and put Jalen in a bad position. I don't want the focus to be this week and not the Super Bowl. I need him to be good. I need his brain to be right. I need his headspace to be in the best position possible for us to go on a monster run. So here's my question. Should the Eagles be cautious with Jalen Hurts? And do you have faith that Kenny Pickett can step in and get you the W? Because I do. What Kenny Pickett did when he was with Pittsburgh, 7-5 twice. So in 2 seasons, a 14-10 record. Not many backup quarterbacks start 24 games and can win 14 of them. And before you hit me with, well, Brodes, they really only got wins because of their defense. Ding, 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 ding. What do we have? What does Vic Fangio have in this town? He's got a defense playing lights out. And by the way, now the Eagles have better skill position players and a Saquon Barkley who is a man on the mission, which Pittsburgh didn't have at that time. So you are set up even better with Nick Sirianni, Vic Fangio, and Kellen Moore than Kenny Pickett was in Pittsburgh when he won 14 out of 24 games. And I'm just saying you need to survive with Kenny Pickett. I'm not setting the standard super high and super ridiculous. I need you to beat Dallas. Is Kenny Pickett capable of beating Dallas? Yes! Just like he was capable of beating the Washington Commanders, and it was for the people around him that kind of let him down. That's why you failed. Devontae Smith, drop ball. The defense had some issues. I need the Eagles to be careful with Jalen Hurts. I can't have this get to the point where it's Friday, it's Saturday, we're sweating it out. Is Jalen going? Is Jalen not going? How is that putting the team in the best position possible? 215-592-9494. Should the Eagles be cautious with Jalen Hurts, and do you have faith in Kenny Pickett to hold the fort down? I want you all to take a listen to Mike Quick, who joined the morning show today. Rob Cherry and Jody Mack did an amazing job filling in for the guys. And take a listen on what Mike Quick had to say about Kenny Pickett in his first opportunity last week and what it means moving forward.
Mike, if Jalen Hurts does not play Sunday, what does Kenny Pickett need to do better with the offense?
I think Kenny Pickett did a really good job. You know, to have to jump in right away in the first quarter and run the game for 3.5 quarters, I thought he did a fantastic job. Now, again, the Commanders played really well against them, and I didn't think that the offensive line particularly had a good game. I thought it was one of the worst games that the Eagles O-line has had all season long. And that kind of played into their inability to run the ball and dominate the line of scrimmage and also in the passing game. It all begins up front. But I thought, Kenny Pickett, he's a backup quarterback. I thought he did enough to win the game. Had he had enough plays from his supporting cast, then the Eagles would have won that game.
All right, so if the offensive line is a tad sharper, and if you are able to have an entire week to plan with Kenny Pickett being the guy, maybe you can dial up a ton of new stuff to get that run game going and where you can get Kenny Pickett more comfortable to operate. If you get the big men up front, though, to play better than what Mike Quick thought, then maybe even Kenny Pickett looks better than he did against Washington. And I thought he did his job against Washington. Wasn't perfect. Wasn't elite, but that's not the job of a backup quarterback. And I feel so strongly in who this defense has become. I feel so strongly in Vic Fangio, and I feel so strongly about Kenny Pickett's ability that they can beat the Dallas Cowboys in this situation. Think of it this way, too. With Cooper Rush. When we first saw Cooper Rush play, I think a lot of us in Philadelphia had the same remarks. This guy sucks. This guy stinks. That's not an NFL quarterback. Well, to Cooper Rush's credit, I guess, they won 4 out of their last 5. And my point is, he looks to be more comfortable now. He got reps. He got playing time. Kenny Pickett was sitting on the bench for 16 weeks, and he also got benched last year. He hasn't played NFL football in a year. Of course, it looked rusty. Of course, he's going to throw a ball that gets picked off in the middle of the field and everybody screams because it's ugly. Of course. But what happens when you get more time to go out there and play and to get snaps and to feel out the game again and to take a couple hits? Now, he's a little banged up, and there's a little bit of thoughts in the back of my mind in regards to that. But ultimately, I still think he is in a good enough spot health-wise to go out there and lead this team with the defense to a win against Dallas, so much so that I feel the Eagles should be careful with Jalen and not put him in harm's way and not put the team in harm's way, because concussions, you don't mess around with it. And it's a very unique thing to sort of monitor. It's not, all right, your arm is back in place. It's not like a dislocation and we know when it's back. It's different. And I don't really trust the NFL protocol, which scares me too, because he could technically be cleared and I still don't necessarily love it. But I just want to make sure that when the playoffs roll around, that Jalen Hurts is in the best shape possible he can be in. So if that means he misses the game against Washington getting hurt, he doesn't play against Dallas, and then Week 18 means nothing against the Giants, and you roll into the playoffs with Jalen not getting much time for 3 straight weeks, I'm good with it. And I think that's the way the Eagles should be focusing on moving forward. 215-592-9494. I'm curious how you all feel out there on the situation. Let's go to Rob in Ocean City, who's going to start us off. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, how you doing, brother? Thanks for taking my call. I couldn't agree with you more. And also, let's not forget, Jalen also has a broken finger on his left hand. So not only do you have him in concussion protocol, but now you give him an extra couple weeks to heal that finger. I want that finger healed, too.
That's an excellent point, Rob. Excellent point. You're right. And, it does limit him. We saw that there was a fumble when he was working through that finger injury, and where does he put the ball as he's running, and he was trying to do too much, and, it got popped out pretty good there. So, yeah, that's another element here, too, is make sure his hand and his finger is as crisp as it can be.
Yep. And if you win, and the way I look at it is, I don't care if you start Tanner McGee or Kenny Pickett. If you cannot beat a bad Dallas team that's one-dimensional on offense, let's face it, they can't run the ball. All they do is throw it to CeeDee Lamb, okay? If you can't beat a one-dimensional Dallas team with our defense, then we've got more serious problems than we thought we had. You know what I mean? So, to me, I see Dallas maybe scoring 10 points, maybe 13 in this game. You know, if you can't score at least 20 points, then we got some serious problems, even with a backup in there.
I couldn't agree more, Rob, and I appreciate your phone call. I agree. That's another reason why I feel strongly about this stance is while it's all about Jalen long-term and keeping him upright and his brain in the right spot, which is a serious thing to focus on, 1,000%, I also think this Eagles team is built very well all across the board. And this defense should be able to stop Cooper Rush. Forget the offense for a second. Forget the offense of the Eagles for half a second here. And just think about Cooper Rush and the Eagles defense versus Dallas's offense. What are we talking about here? That alone should beat the game for you or win the game for you. You should beat Dallas with that alone. So, you got the surrounding pieces. You got a strong defense. I don't think they're going to leak oil the same way they did against Washington. That Washington game was fluky. It took a lot of bizarre things to happen for the Commanders to even get a chance to secure the victory. CJ gets kicked out. Josh Sweat leaves with the ankle. Jordan Davis, no Jalen Hurts. And you prepared all week long for him to be the one taking snaps. And also think this. One area I believe that the Eagles are really phenomenal in is their ability to see what is happening on the field and then figure out some adjustments. Meaning, when you face the Rams, Cooper Kupp and Puka, they started to get hot. First few drives did not look pretty. Then, here comes the lockdown. Then, here comes the clamps. We've seen an Eagles offense struggle in first quarters. Then, they seem to get momentum. They read and react to how the other team's defense applies pressure. Then it's all she wrote. Eagles take control. They get the win. They dominate you in the second half, and they wear you down. Well, they saw certain things with Kenny Pickett in this most recent game. And now you can go back to the drawing board with an entire week of practice. And you can read and react to what was going wrong when you tried X, Y, and Z with Kenny Pickett. How can we do things cleaner? How can we make sure we operate this offense a little better? How can we sustain drives more? How can we get, instead of a field goal off of a turnover, let's make sure we can lean heavy on the run game, have that be more effective. Let's look at what went wrong against the Commanders and apply our knowledge and go back to the film and study on how we can improve. That's a quality and a trait that I feel is significant. And I feel good about this coaching staff. I believe in this coaching staff. All of this truly is a testament of me believing in the way that this organization is set up right now. As much as it is about Jalen Hurts, the quarterback, and him being in a very good position to win playoff games in a few weeks, a lot of this is because I trust Sirianni. I trust Fangio. I trust Kellen Moore. I trust this defense. I trust Quinyon Mitchell. I trust Jalen Carter. I trust Lane Johnson. I trust Mailata. I trust Saquon Barkley. I trust these guys. They are damn good, if not the best team in the NFC. And they all play a role in that too. Just as much as the quarterback does, they do too. And for 1 week, if I'm asking them to accomplish a goal in beating Dallas without their quarterback, I believe they have enough power to do it. So much so that the Eagles should be careful with Jalen Hurts. Kenny Pickett can do the job. Let's go to Mitchy Tools in Center City. What's up, Mitchy Tools?
Holidays. You know, you're right on the money. You got to sit our franchise quarterback. But showing my age, the Eagles, if you look at their backup quarterbacks, I don't know if you remember Jeff Garcia.
Of course.
Pretty deep.
Yeah.
That 1 year. I mean, you're in a good position. Listen, if you had 9 wins, that's a different thing. 10 wins, you're sitting good. Rest Hurts. And I think you're going to be surprised. You said it right. The coaching staff, and, remember, our defense is pretty damn healthy. We'll play conservative football, but I think we're going to win this game, by 10, 12, 10, 13 points. But, again, our coaching staff, you said this, is unbelievable in our defense, and you're going to see I think Pickett, you're going to be surprised by him. He's going to throw the ball, and you're hearing this, there's not going to be any picks this Sunday. I'm telling you, we're going to be surprised by him.
That's the big one, Mitchy, and thank you so much for weighing in here. That's the big one on, is he going to turn the football over? And look, if a backup quarterback plays 4 quarters for you and he throws 1 interception, of course, the 1 turnover can be a big difference in a big swing, but a turnover may happen. I mean, the reason why some of these quarterbacks are backups and not starters is they're not as efficient as starters. They make poor decisions more often than starters. They're not as accurate as starters. So, but just to play the other side, Cooper Rush probably will do the same thing. Cooper Rush will probably put the ball in harm's way. Would you be surprised if Reed Blankenship or CJ gets an interception of his own? So you may be right, Mitchy Tools, that you do not get an interception out of Kenny Pickett, but I also wouldn't be surprised if there's 1. I still think you could win with 1 because I also feel the defense can turn over Cooper Rush. But what Kenny Pickett did that I feel is successful for his role, and he did it against Washington, and I project to see it again this upcoming week if he is going to be the starter, is he puts the ball in an area for A.J. Brown. It's not a perfect dime. It's not always right there exactly where it needs to be, like he's Peyton Manning in his prime. But you have to put the ball in a radius where A.J. can go maul somebody, where Devontae Smith can snag it and run with it. And he did that at the end. It's just unfortunate that Devontae Smith dropped the football. He showed that he is willing to trust his skill position guys enough to put it in an area, and then they now have to go do their job. And if you do that consistently enough for a short amount of time, you can't survive like that if Kenny Pickett's your starter through 17 games. But that's not what we're focusing on here. It's about this game in particular. If Kenny Pickett had to play 3 games, Washington, Dallas, Giants, he should have 1 win already on the resume. But you got to win 2 out of those 3. Can Kenny Pickett do that? Yes. Yes. And I have so much confidence in that I feel they should be leaning towards him being the starter until we get any sort of update on Jalen. And if it is 50-50 that Jalen can go, I'm not pushing it. If it's 60-40 Jalen can go, I'm not pushing it. I even feel a little awkward if it was 80-20. Just because, is that 20% worth it right now with the grand scheme of things of trying to win a Lombardi trophy? You're good. Your team is good. Your line, both of them, offensive, defensive line, elite stuff out of Jalen Carter, out of Lane Johnson. I'm watching Cam Jurgens in the second level throw people back with their forearms. He's just throwing them back with his forearms, I should say. It's nuts. You're in a position to win these games, with or without him. And I want to make sure his headspace is right. They're bringing in Ian Book for a visit. Doesn't that tell you what you don't want to hear? You're not just bringing in Ian Book just to do it. That screams something's up. That that screams, I'm not going to say desperation, but it screams alarms are going off for the right now. We got to do something because the status for Jalen is a little wonky. That's what Ian Book visiting the Eagles tells me. So if we are at the point where it is so unknown about where the direction of Jalen Hurts is going that you have to bring in Ian Book and talk to him, I think you got to consider not even worrying about Jalen's potential here to play on Sunday, and you just sit it down. Of course, you got to remember, they're always going to be looking for competitive advantages. So no matter what they sell to the public, and no matter what we hear from Nick Sirianni later on, there is some version of we are playing the game. So they are going to play the game publicly to try and throw some sort of shots in the direction of Dallas, and they're going to have to escape it. So I don't know if I'm going to buy everything they say for face value. So I'm fascinated to hear the tone and the delivery of Nick Sirianni coming up in about an hour here. But I think the Eagles really need to be careful of this. All right, so we heard from Mike Quick, who joined the morning show. Now I want you to hear from Shady McCoy. This was from Christmas Eve. So this was Christmas Eve on the facility on Fox Sports. Here's Shady McCoy on Kenny Pickett.
Jalen Hurts scrambling. So when the backup comes in there, you don't just change the whole offensive game plan for running the ball. You can't do it at all. Right. So now if you watch Saquon second half get shut down because they were just sweeping that backside. They didn't account for Kenny Pickett to scramble on the RPOs. Yep. But now we play them again, we scratch the RPO. We ain't even running there no more. We're going to run other run plays, and we're going to have other plays for Kenny Pickett. All I'm saying is this. For Kenny Pickett to be a backup, I was excited.
He was.
I was happy with what I seen. So who we play next? The Cowboys?
Y'all got the Cowboys.
Anybody want to take that bet?
Or Jalen playing?
Or be humble. No, Jalen ain't playing now. Kenny Pickett's playing.
How you know?
How you know? Come on, man. Come on, man.
Breaking news.
Come on, man.
Nah, nobody wants that. I will say.
All right, so Shady in there implying he may know a little something a couple days ago about who's the quarterback for this upcoming Sunday game. Take that as you will, obviously, some laughter and some fun with the fellas. But it is true about, all right, this is what we do with Jalen. All right, 11 plays in. Now we have to roll with Kenny Pickett. On the fly, it's not easy. It's not easy. And I actually thought they did enough to win that football game, even though they had to battle so much adversity. Even though they had to go to someone who hasn't touched a football in 16 weeks in real NFL action and barely gets any work with the ones all practice week long. Should have won the football game. You should have won the football game. All you needed was Devontae Smith to catch the rock, and we have another W under our belt. And then, you know, this week and the tone and the talk and the number one team, it kind of changes a little bit. But that's where we begin today's show. 215-592-9494. The Eagles should be careful with Jalen Hurts. And Kenny Pickett is a good enough quarterback to beat the Dallas Cowboys. Where do you stand on it all? Also, we are going to be joined by the great Seth Joyner to start the 11 o'clock hour. And as I mentioned earlier, there will be a Nick Sirianni press conference at 11:30 and later on in the program. So on Christmas Eve, we did a show together here at the same time slot, and I did Who Deserved Coal in Philadelphia Sports. Well, today I'm feeling a little bit happier, and it's who deserves or who was the best present in Philadelphia sports this season. I actually have 5 or 6 different presents that we were gifted this year as a sports town. You'll hear them all. 215-592-9494. And coming up next, Dallas fans, they think that there's actually a matchup to expose. Man, are they idiots. I'll tell you what that is. It's Brodes right here on the Midday Show on Sports Radio 94 WIP. I believe the Eagles should be careful with Jalen Hurts. And I don't take concussions lightly, even anywhere. I mean, there's just no sugarcoating that. I don't take concussions lightly, one. But number two, moving forward here with this football team, I think all of us are focusing on a deep playoff run. we want to go win a championship. And based off of Jalen being in the concussion protocol, then bringing in Ian Book, not having any updates on him yet, if it's a coin flip for Sunday, let's not mess around. We don't need to be putting him in rough positions if it's coin flip. What are we doing? What's the gain here? What's the positives here? Is the positives outweighing the negatives? How do you calculate that risk of Jalen Hurts long-term for this football team? If it's a coin flip, is this game against the Dallas Cowboys, albeit I understand trying to win the division, all that stuff, you can do that with Pickett. You can win this game with Kenny Pickett and your defense and your skill position players. I am not putting Jalen in harm's way. I prefer watching Kenny Pickett take the snaps, watching Kenny Pickett have the ability to go through the practice week with him being the focus, with him being the game plan, with him getting the reps that he needs to win a game against Dallas, which he can do. He should have beat Washington without any prep. All he needed was Devontae to catch the football. With the turnover, with the bad interception, with some of the poor throws, with some of the bad drives that you could not sustain, with all that being in play, you still should have won the game. So it'll be only cleaner if you allow Kenny Pickett to roll into the practice week knowing he's the number one, putting a game plan together like he's the number one, and getting snaps to play with A.J. Brown and the rest of the crew. I'm in favor of Kenny Pickett starting versus Dallas and being careful with Jalen Hurts. Let's go to Alec in Lehigh. What's up, Alec?
Hey, Brodes. Listen, man, I just wanted to tell you, I watch your TikToks, man. You're a funny dude.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to add to your point about sitting Jalen Hurts. I completely agree with you. I think our defense alone is strong enough to win this game. Cooper Rush against our defense in 2022 had like 3 picks. Gardner Johnson picked him off twice, and Darius Slay picked him off once. And then just this year, there was 5 total turnovers. So I don't think that we need to push anything harsh onto Jalen. I think that we can win this game just with our defense alone.
I agree. I really, really agree. And the more I think about what a previous caller said earlier in the show about Jalen and his finger. Now, I'm not a doctor, and I don't know how much time he's going to need for his finger to get where it needs to anyway. Maybe there's not enough time, and he just has to live with it for this year if he's going to continue to play. But that's another element, too, which is just making sure his hands are good. And who knows? I mean, if your finger's all out of whack and you try and take a snap at a shotgun and something happens, I just want that rested, too. I think that's something that we need to focus on.
I completely agree. I've ever since Jalen joined this team, I've been like one of his biggest supporters and one of his biggest fans. I want that dude completely healthy because he's shown us that he could take us to the promised land before. So why not take us there again? So keep him healthy. I'd sit him. I don't know if you saw, real quick, CeeDee Lamb is also questionable for Sunday with a shoulder. I think I saw something about he dislocated it against who they just play, the Bucs.
Yeah, and you know what? And thank you, Alec, for all the kind words, and I appreciate you chiming in. I can't believe I'm about to say this. It's going to make me sick. It's going to make me nauseous. I'm going to actually give credit to CeeDee Lamb. What CeeDee Lamb did with his shoulder still going out there to play, in today's era of athletes where all we do is rightfully complain about them sitting out for 3 weeks in the NBA because they have a hurt pinky and all this nonsense of guys just resting and not caring at all. You know, and by the way, I'm speaking about Jalen not playing due to a concussion. That's totally different. CeeDee Lamb, man, I got to say, I respect it. Oh, sick. Makes me sick. It does. It makes me sick. I respect it. because that's the attitude that we want from everybody. And the fact that he puts on a Cowboys helmet, they're out of the playoffs, they're not ready to go make a run, and he's in a random game against the Buccaneers, and he's getting tackled by two guys, landing on his shoulders, missing one play, then goes back out the next drive. He doesn't care. He wants to play the game and has passion for the game and for his teammates and wants to compete. God, I hate that so much. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. But I give him credit. But to the point of where he's at health-wise, even when he's healthy, I love what the Eagles can do defensively against Cooper Rush and the Cowboys offense. I love it healthy. Now, CD can still ball injured, but I'm just saying, I do think that there is also an angle here of if CeeDee Lamb's at 80%, 75%, 70%, you could beat the Cowboys when he's at 100 with what Vic Fangio has applied to this roster. You can also, though, beat him up when CeeDee Lamb's at maybe 70% as well.